The story begins as we see villagers hiding in their homes because an S-rank monster is terrorizing their village. We learn that they spent all of their money to hire a party called the Dragon's Fang. And we see a boy named Kurt who has no talent for combat. So his only role in the party is to do their chores. He waits for them to defeat the monster, but it suddenly appears behind him and blows him away. Their ranger bandana uses her rope to restrain it, but it just smashes her into a wall. Their healer, Maris, helps her recover and she quickly wraps her rope around the beast while their leader, Golova, uses his flaming sword to finish it off. So, the villagers celebrate and everyone starts to recognize the Dragon's Fang as the hero's party. After that, we see Golova eating with the party, but he starts complaining about the food the villagers gave them and orders Kurt to cook for them. But Bandana mentions that it's his last day, and Golova reveals that they've decided to fire him because he's useless in battle. Maris explains that a party can only have 4 members, and thinks the only way for them to get stronger is by replacing him with a mage. He begs them to let him stay, but Golova calls him useless and kicks him away. Kurt starts traveling alone, but soon realizes he's running out of money, so he heads to a workstation, where he meets a clerk named Kursel. He tells her he's looking for a job, so she gives him an interview, and he reveals that he got fired from the hero's party. But she tells him not to worry because his experience might help him land a decent job. And she notes that it's time for the aptitude test. She explains that aptitudes are God-given talents and thinks the test might help them discover his hidden skills. So, he becomes excited. But when the results come out, she tells him he received the lowest rank in all the combat-related skills. But she explains that they still haven't tested his aptitude for non-combat skills because their technician is away. He tells her he barely has enough money to survive, so she tells him to try lifting a sandbag, but as he grabs it, he realizes that it's draining his mana. He struggles to lift it, but she tells him he's strong enough to handle construction work. She asks him if he wants to help repair the walls of a frontier town, and he accepts the job, so she prepares a letter of introduction for him. The foreman reads it and thinks Kurt isn't fit for the job, but he realizes he can't be picky because he needs more workers. He orders him to mend the walls and promises to be back after 3 hours, telling him his pay will depend on his performance. After 3 hours, the foreman returns, but he freaks out as he sees the wall because Kurt has already repaired a huge portion of it. But he thinks he screwed up, so he apologizes for the mess, telling the foreman he ran out of cement. The foreman wonders how he worked on the upper part without scaffolds or ladders. So Kurt shows him how he did it. The foreman thinks it's ridiculous, but he realizes that Kurt isn't lying. He gives him a bag of coins, telling him it's all he can pay him for now, but he promises to transfer the rest of his salary through the workstation. Kurt thinks it's more than he deserves, and he's excited to work again the next day. After 2 days, the workers can't believe the west and north walls have already been completed, but the foreman tells Kurt he doesn't need to come back because he works too fast, telling him the workers will lose their jobs if he finishes everything himself. The foreman thinks his aptitude for construction must be SSS-Rank. He gives him the rest of his pay and bids him farewell. But Kurt thinks the foreman doesn't like him. Kurt returns to the workstation and tells Kursel he got fired again, but they see a girl named Elisha arguing with another clerk who won't let her post a job. Kursel asks them what's happening. So the clerk explains that Elisha is looking for a miner, but she only wants to pay them if their operation is successful. Kursel tells her she should recruit investors to develop a mine, but she explains that the mountain will be impounded if she doesn't pay taxes within the week. Kurt volunteers to work for her, telling her he used to help excavate in the mines, but Kursel tells him there's no guarantee he'll get paid. Elisha notes that she wants to hire a dwarf instead, because she thinks he just looks like a kid. But Kursel tells her she'll need 10 silver for that, and she realizes she can't afford it. So, she decides to go with Kurt. As they leave, Kursel notes that Kurt has a great personality, and she thinks he would be a hit with the women with his good looks. The clerk tells her they just received a bank transfer for him, and she realizes it's his salary for the construction work. But she can't believe it's worth 200 gold. She trips on the sandbag and wonders what it's doing there. So, Her coworker tells her they'll return it. She explains that it measures mana and gets heavier depending on a person's mana capacity. But it doesn't react to normal people. Kershaw realizes it isn't that heavy, and she recalls how Kurt struggled to lift it. So she realizes that he has a hidden talent. Kurt follows Ulysses to her camp, but he realizes there's only one tent, and she tells him it's big enough for both of them. He notes that they can't share the tent since she's such a cute girl, but she becomes flustered hearing this and asks him if he's serious. He explains that he has traveled the world, and he has never met anyone as beautiful as her, but she doesn't believe him. She tells him it's time to eat,